Yo, hope everybody had a great time with their New Year's festivities. Hope you guys all were safe, living it up. Today's video, I want to go ahead and talk about a bit of a comparison video. We're going to be talking about two rocket launchers, okay? The Apex Predator, and now that it has some recent competition this season with the Crux Termination 4. The Apex Predator is an adaptive frame, solar, craftable rocket launcher from the Last Wish raid. The definition of a zero to hero weapon when they reprised it. And the Crux is an aggressive frame arc rocket launcher that got released this season. However, it is a world drop, meaning you are gonna have to fight a little bit of RNG just to go ahead and get a decent roll, and you are not able to craft this weapon, so no enhanced perks. However, there's definitely some merit to this new Crux Termination rocket launcher, but we shall get to that. Of course, remember, if you do ever want to get your games in DLC for a cheaper price, you can always hit up Instant Gaming, which is going to be the top link in the description, along with their free monthly game giveaway. So we'll go ahead and start things off with the Apex Predator itself. As we know, the Apex Predator and the rest of the Last Wish raid weapons got all of their perk pulls reprised along with craftable patterns back in Season of the Deep. And as we all know, whenever we saw that perk pull, we had no idea that they were going to cook up the rocket to be this strong, especially compared to its former self, right? If you look at the perk pool, for example, you have the one and only tried and true reconstruction, enhanced by the way, very, very good. You also have things like Demolitionist and Slide Shot at Home and Slideways. Remember, the difference between Slideways and Slide Shot is that Slideways has a 3-second cooldown. Slide Shot's cooldown, practically non-existent. Can't even tell. That's going to be very important later on, trust me. Of course, in the fourth column for Apex Predator, you have the two hardest hitting perks for rocket launchers that you can get in Bait and Switch and encounters in which you can proc it. You'll be able to get Surrounded. And because the Apex Predator is craftable, you can get the enhanced version of Surrounded, which, in case you did not know, enhanced Surrounded is one of the better enhanced perks you can get in the game, as instead of giving you some minor goofy little stat bump, it's going to make the surrounded damage buff that you get from the perk a higher damage increase. For example, at base, Surrounded is going to give your rocket launcher a 35% explosive damage increase, a 40% impact damage increase, and then your Wolfpack rounds are going to receive a 35% damage buff. Now, when you compare that to Enhanced Surrounded, your rocket launchers are now going to receive a 41.75% explosive damage increase and a 47% impact damage increase. Along with that, your Wolfpack rounds are also now going to receive a 41.75% explosive damage increase. That's going to be very, very strong. Part of the reason why Apex is so darn good. If you can proc Enhanced Surrounded, you got the highest hitting damage buff that you can get in a weapon perk on any rocket launcher in the game. And if you can't, you can just roll with good old Bait and Switch. 35% that you can proc at will on demand is always going to be an S tier perk. And then, of course, for something like a GM, you may could go with something like Reconstruction and Bipod. That's not too shabby in GMs just because you get a lot more rockets to play with. And then to round out the Apex Predator, its Origin Trait Explosive Pack. This weapon gains bonus stability and reload speed when activating a grenade ability. Healing grenades and grenade final blows grant additional stacks of the bonus. Nothing too crazy, but a little bit of reload speed never hurt nobody. And now we shall go ahead and talk about the new Crux rocket. Oh man, oh man, oh man, is this thing an absolute demon. I would definitely say that this rocket launcher will replace your Hothead as the best arc rocket launcher in your vault, and I definitely think it's the best arc rocket launcher in the game. So let's go ahead and talk about this weapon's perk pool just a little bit, and keep in mind that this rocket launcher is an aggressive frame, meaning that it does have a slightly higher RPM, although both frames are still the most ideal frames that you want on any damage dealing rocket launcher, as long as they're not high impacts and, oh, God forbid, a precision frame. RIP. Anyways, the perk pool on this bad boy is very unique, to say the least, right? You have some strong basic rolls. However, you have some pretty fun shenanigan rolls in here as well. For instance, in the third column, we have a lot of great perks. We really do. You have Clown Cartridge, Slide Shot. Yeah, this is why I mentioned Slideways earlier, because Slide Shot is in this rocket launcher's third column of perks. Oh, and the cooldown for slide shot is 0.3 seconds, bro. I mean, come on. I mean, come on, dude. You also have perks like Envious Assassin in the third column as well. And you have tried and true Reconstruction, one of the best perks for heavy and special weapons in the game, in my opinion. Although keep in mind, because this weapon is a world drop, you're not going to be able to enhance it. So you have 4 really, really good perks in the third column, which is very useful because, hey man, world drops, finding those good rolls are just not really the easiest thing in the world to do. It's just lucky. Now, we have Bipod in the 4th column, which, I mean, hey, dude, a clown cartridge Bipod rocket could be pretty cool. I think you'd always be reloading at least 3 rockets with a bipod clown roll. Definitely could be useful in something like GMs. You do have explosive light here as well, which is a just overall strong, decent damage dealing perk for grenade launchers and rocket launchers. Although just keep in mind, man, that at this point explosive light is totally outclassed. This rocket launcher does have access to surrounded, which if you can get it to proc is always going to be your most ideal option. And the last perk that I do want to mention is Demolitionist. I know some people really like demo and clown cartridge, meaning you could shoot 2 rockets, throw a grenade, shoot a 3rd rocket, reload, and then shoot another 2. Maybe pair it with Reconstruction. Me personally, bro, I generally, this day and age, do like to have a damage perk on my rocket launcher, unless it was something like the field prep clown cartridge roll in the hothead for just sheer rocket dumping. However, this rocket has slide shot. Now, if your brain is putting some of the combos of perks together in your head, well, look no further, because this rocket has the ability to rocket dump all by itself while having the strongest damage perk in the game with the slide shot and surrounded roll. This is insane DPS. You can dump all of your rockets in such an insane short period of time while having surrounded proc is just insane damage from one weapon. Of course, you do have traditional rolls that you could go with, like clown cartridge bipod, clown cartridge explosive light, reconstruction explosive light. However, I feel like the main draw of the crux rocket launcher is the fact that it has slide shot in the 3rd column. So I would definitely try and combine slide shot with either surrounded or explosive light for a very fun, albeit very niche, but very, very strong DPS rocket if you're able to not blow yourself up or any of your teammates while you're sliding around. I just feel like I cannot mention the crux termination 4 without mentioning the slide shot and surrounded roll, because it is just so insane and so much fun. Oh, and the Crux's origin trait wildcard isn't really anything to write home about. Final blows with this weapon have a chance to create experimental submunitions at the target's location. So now that we have a general idea of what these rockets each have to offer, let us now go ahead and talk about some weapons that you can pair them with to get the full benefit of your surge mods, right? And this is definitely where the Apex Predator is going to shine really well here, because it is solar. I think the first thing that comes to mind to pair the Apex Predator with would be something like Merciless, especially if you have a surrounded roll Apex Predator and or you are using RDMs to just dump as many rockets as you can, and then you swap to Merciless after you've dumped all of your rockets for the rest of the damage phase. Merciless has some insane overall damage and DPS for a special weapon, and then both being solar means they'll both benefit from triple solar surge. 2 other really good solar fusion rifles that you could pair with the Apex Predator would be something like a Cartesian Coordinate and or the Eremite from Season of the Witch with Envious Assassin and Controlled Burst. Of course, since these are legendaries, that would leave your exotic slot to go in your kinetic slot. For instance, you could go something like a Wither Horde, maybe Izanagi's, maybe even Conditional Finality, right? If you only need to proc bait and switch twice, conditional might not be a terrible option. One of my favorite rotations to use with the Apex Predator is on Strand Lock, basically a Wither Horde and or an Izanagi shot, just depending on the encounter, or boss rather. Cartesian coordinate in the energy slot, then of course Apex Predator in the heavy slot. Proc bait and switch, dump out the reconstruction mag of rockets, and then use a grapple grenade with threat of ascent and threat of generation to constantly get your grapple back so you can grapple at the ground and instantly reload your Apex Predator, skipping the reload animation. I'll switch back to something like my Cartesian to shoot at the boss for a bit to get a bit of energy back with threat of generation for my grapple grenade. Switch right back to the rocket, super, rocket, grenade, rocket, Witherhoard proc again. It could get pretty insane and pretty fun, but it is a triple swapping loadout where something with the Merciless, you could dump your surrounded rocket, switch to Merciless, as Merciless has really good damage for a special weapon once you've rinsed all of your rockets. Now, since the crux termination is arc and you're not really going to be triple swapping with the crux, you're mainly going to be using it to just dump rockets really fast. So maybe your exotic special could be something like a Cloud Strike. Of course, any of the other good exotics in the kinetic slot will also work, but I feel like most people will be looking at something like Cloud Strike as an exotic choice to go in the energy slot to pair with the crux termination. Legendary options, hear me out. I don't know if you're expecting this. In the energy slot, since you're using a surrounded rocket anyways, you could actually go ahead and double down on that with the Midas Reckoning, the fusion rifle from the King's Fall raid. It is a high impact frame, but it can roll cornered and surrounded, and you can craft it so it can get enhanced surrounded. We already went over how good enhanced surrounded is earlier in the video, and for a fusion rifle, it'll just give it a 47% damage bonus. Insane, right? And then cornered is going to allow you to have a faster charge time when surrounded by combatants to help you mitigate the fact that it is a high impact frame, slow shooting fusion rifle. I haven't played with this rotation and or combination too much, but I definitely feel like I have to at least mention it because at least on paper, it sounds like it could be pretty good. Maybe pair it with something like a deadweight shotgun, which is an arc rapid fire frame shotgun from Gambit. It can roll a lot of good damage perks. It can get auto-loading holster, so maybe you can go for like auto-loading holster and surrounded on this bad boy. Maybe not a terrible idea. A good legendary sniper to use in the kinetic slot, if you would like to use one, would definitely be a supremacy. For triple swapping, you would use something like rewind rounds and kinetic trimmers. And then if you want to use it for more so damage, you could put bait and switch on there. And you always have the rewind rounds 4 times charm roll on the supremacy for any fun gimmicky shenanigans. Although sometimes they can be pretty useful in very specific situations. Not saying these are the end-all be-all weapons to pair with these rocket launchers, just a few decent examples that you can go ahead and keep your eye on the lookout for. Since this rocket's mainly ideally designed to just dump all of its ammo, you want to have something that's a strong special weapon that you can still use to deal some decent damage with after you've dumped all of your rockets. Now for a little bit of closing thoughts on what might be the better rocket launcher out of the two, I still think that for most players and in most situations, the Apex Predator is still going to be better just because there's so many good perks on it, so many good perk combinations. It's solar, it's the right type of frame that you want, either adaptive or aggressive, and it's never ever going to be a bad choice. You can use it in triple swaps, you can use it to dump. It's so versatile, it's so good. However, I do feel like the crux termination is out here giving it a little bit of a run for its money, just because it also has some pretty unique combinations and one combination of perks that only it is able to use, that being slide shot and surrounded. Let me know down in the comments section which rocket you think is better out of the two, along with your favorite roles for either of these two rocket launchers. Thank you so much for watching the video. Remember, if you want to get your games and DLC for a cheaper price, hit up Instant Gaming. You guys be safe, take care, consider subscribing, and I'll see your beautiful faces in the next one. Adios!